You're listening to the WB Download, coming to you from Wheel & Builder's showroom in Studio 1C. We are a podcast centered around building custom homes, the customer experience of building a custom home, and a really entertaining listen from many great guests and interviews that may or may not have anything to do with building. I'm excited to share with you their voice and their stories that will enhance your idea of the custom builder world. Welcome, everybody, once again to the WB Download. Today is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. I'm Jeff Whelan, president of Wheel & Builders, coming to you from our showroom here in Westchester, Ohio. Man, what a great show we have today. And my guest is none other than David Drees, president of the Drees Company, and owner, one of the owners of the Drees Company. And it's going to be so exciting to hear what David has to say. David's been a friend of mine, and a great businessman here in Southwest Ohio for a long time. And I'm just grateful that he's even taken time to come up here and consider being on the show. So I can't wait for you guys to listen to this interview, listen to what he has to say, and we'll talk more about it. So let's talk about what's going on right now in the world of Wheel & Builders. And we just recently closed a home up in Oxford. And these people, we met them in 2020 over Zoom during COVID. And they're just such great people. I mean, and their site is absolutely beautiful. It's 15 plus acres. It's on a huge lake, and just an unbelievable setting. And the house is so cool that we built exactly what they wanted up there. Through a bunch of trials and tribulations through COVID and on their part, dealing with some personal things, we finally ended up with a plan and in construction and finishing this home just a few weeks ago. So they are not the only ones. We've had 3 or 4 of these people where I met them in COVID on Zoom, and we finally were able to build their house and finish it up. So we've got one more to go, one of those where I met them that long ago, and we're finishing that house up right now as we speak. So we're also just got a couple more that we're doing up there, and can't read my own handwriting. We got a couple more that we're doing, one in Liberty Township and another one up in Oxford. Both of those are in the foundation stage, and we're kicking butt on those. And we're finishing a really cool one over in Indian Hill, and we've been at this one for a long time, and it'll be so cool to see this thing wrap up and finish up and get it to the finish line. So the other thing that we've got going on is we're getting ready to start one over in Indian Hill. This is one that's been a long time coming. We've been up and down on this site that we took a chance on buying a year ago, and actually it's been 2 years now. Wow. It's been a year ago, and we're finally getting this thing rolling. So we're pretty excited about that. And then the other thing we've got is a signed contract for another one up in Liberty Township. So we're really busy. We're really fired up. This is as busy as we want to be. We've got a lot of good things happening. We've got a lot of great people that we're still talking to that we're going to get started on. So 2024, we're excited about you being here. So we also have some other exciting news. We have acquired another home over in the Indian Hill area. And for those of you who are not from around here, Indian Hill is a very prestige part of town. Just an unbelievable community. It's large acre sites, very, very unbelievable homes that are over there. And it's kind of cool to be the caliber of builder that can build in that area. So, it used to be anyway, but so we've acquired a home that's over that area. This home had some fire damage. Something happened to the inside of it, got caught on fire, and it only affected the some areas of the first floor and the lower level. And the guy did not want to move back in there. So through another friend of mine, we came across this project, ended up over the last 6 months being able to make a deal on it. And now here we are. So the house has been mitigated, but not put back, rebuilt. So we're going to rebuild it, and we're going to put it back on the market. So it's the site that this house is sitting on. I'm not sure I really want to do this, but the site that this house is sitting on is spectacular. It's beautiful. It's just amazing. And that's one of the biggest attractions that brought me to want to do this deal. So we're fired up about that. That thing will be on the market here in the next couple of weeks. And the other thing, I told you we were getting ready to go down to our Builder 20 group on the last show. We just got back from our Builder 20 group last week. My wife and I went down to Beaumont, Texas to meet with the boys. And man, I can tell you that there's There's one thing I realize every time I come back from Texas is I love Texas, every part of it. And Beaumont was no exception. It was just so cool to be down there. The last night that we were there, we went to Stoney Pettit, which is one of the main guys there at Anderson Homes in Beaumont. Stoney Pettit and Adam Farney. But we went to Stoney's house last night. We had his crawfish bake and our boil, I guess they call it. Had this unbelievable barbecue and just a really cool party. But we were sitting on the back porch, and all you can see, as far as you could see the sunset, and it was just an unbelievable Texas sky that night. And I really kind of hit home. So I loved it. Loved every minute of being down there, and think that would be a place that I'd want to go if I wasn't here. But anyway, we got the tour. We meet for 3 days. The first day is a full day. It's our financial meeting in the spring every year. So we bring in a guy named Jim Weber he's a CPA from up in Toledo, Ohio, and he flew to Beaumont to meet with us, and he reviews all of our numbers. And you'll hear David Drees say this today on the podcast. If you're going to do anything in business, if you're going to become a builder or whatever you're going to do, you need to know your numbers. So this is one of the main things that we're doing in this group. Holding each other accountable, having a lot of camaraderie, and kicking each other in the butt, but making sure that we are looking at our numbers all the time. Profitability, financial planning, investing, everything we can do to make sure that we stay in business, that we're successful in business, and we're also successful in our personal life. And that's what we look at. Profitability is a big thing. And I think that when you talk about money, some people think that, people who are in business just can't get enough of it. When I talk about profitability, I talk about sustainability. I talk about longevity. I talk about the success of our company, the success of all the families that we support here in this company. That's what profitability means to me. It's not greed by any means. It's making sure that we're gonna last. We're going to keep a legacy. We're going to keep on moving. So it was a really good meeting, and I just enjoy it so much. I enjoy this group. I think this is my 9th year in a group, and I just enjoyed so much of being around these guys and learning from each one of them. These are what I consider some of the best builders in the country. We've got them from all over the place, from Utah down to Texas, to over to North Carolina, Ohio, up to Michigan. I mean, and all in between. We're just everywhere. So it's really cool. And then the other thing we got going on here, so like I said, we just got back from that. And the other thing we got, I'll give you an update on Homerama. We've kind of slowed down a little bit because we had been waiting on some cabinetry, this custom built cabinetry that we were working through. And we also were just working on some other back ordered tile, which is not uncommon. So now we're in a good spot to get the painters in there and start kicking butt again. So we're going to get that bad boy wrapped up here pretty soon, and can't wait for the show to start there in August and go right through the first week of September, and just carry on our legacy. So on the farm, we just weaned some calves this last weekend. We had 4 of them that we took off their moms, and we put the bull in with the spring calving cows, made him get to work again. He's had enough break, and now he's going to go back to work. And then the other thing we're doing is we're watching the grass grow. And something I told my son Cody the other day is when I was in college for beef production management there, I wish that they would force us to take a turf grass management class or make that one of our degrees, because I spend as much time messing around with this grass as I do with them cows on the farm. It's equally important, and it's your livelihood that you're going to have on the farm is everything that's growing up out of the ground, not to mention the stuff that's growing on the ground. And then the other thing we're doing is we're waiting for it to dry out. We've had a tremendous amount of rain here in Southwest Ohio the last several weeks, and once it gets a little bit drier, the guys are going to start planting the fields and get that thing looking green. So we're having an 80th birthday party for my dad this year up at the farm, and so we want everything to be pristine and green by the time we get around to late June there for his party. So those are the things we've got going on in the world right now. So I want to introduce our guest here on the show. Like I said, his name is David Drees. If you're from anywhere, you could be from anywhere in the country, but because they build all over the place. But if you're from Southwest Ohio or Northern Kentucky, you certainly know this man. He's an incredible person. I've always always just thought the world of him, and I'm even more in awe of him. The fact that he would take the time to come in here and sit down and on. I mean, I know the WB download is a major deal. I mean, it's no different than the major newscast, but I'm really surprised that he agreed to do this. I'm just so looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to you guys being able to hear what he has to say, and I just hope I do a good enough job. I hope I do it justice. But David is just well, you're going to hear about him. So David Drees, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the show. And everybody, here he comes, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. David Drees. All right. Today, I want to welcome my friend, David Drees, to the show. David is the owner of the Drees Company. They're a nationwide home builder based here in Northern Kentucky. You guys build in Austin, you build in Indianapolis, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Cleveland, and of course, right here in Southwest Ohio. So I've known the Drees family for a long time. They're a family business, just like ours was, but they're a little bit bigger than we are. But I've had the pleasure of getting to know you guys. So David, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks, Jeff.
Man, I tell you what, you and I, we go back a little ways just because we've been around each other. You grew up in this business the same way I did. You know, our parents, your grandparents, where everybody was building in building houses. And so when that happens, all the kids get to know each other. And because our parents are involved in the home builders associations and just get to see each other. And so you and I have been around a bunch of different events together. So
it's a great industry that way.
I think so. It's, you know, we're all competitors, but then we all get together to make sure that we're fighting for the industry together and sharing each other with, you know, because I always tell people, I'm like, we're builders. We have this screwed up personality. And so when we see other builders, we're like, oh, look, there's another one of us.
Right. We got something in common.
We can go relate to them and talk to them. So, you know,
sharing the same miseries and the same success.
Exactly. My dad always said that, thank God for bars, because builders drink when they're sad and they drink when they're happy.
It's always a good reason.
Right. So why would I be interviewing another builder on our show? So I like to, I think the world of you. I think you're a great person. I admire you. And that's one of the reasons why you're on here. But to hear the Drees story, I'm fascinated with it. And then to hear the difference between, you know, we always talk about we're 100% custom builders and you guys are more like a, I don't, what's the word to you? Because I don't want to say production builder, because that's a different term, but what would you consider yourself?
Well, we like to use the word custom a lot as well.
Everybody likes to use the word custom.
Exactly, because everybody wants a custom house.
Family owned, operated custom builder.
But we definitely fill a niche where we operate in a space, I guess, between custom and production. But we try to provide people with the homes of their desire, you know, customized to their needs. But on a production platform, so they can provide a great value.
Yeah.
So we're kind of right there in the middle.
I would agree. I think production gets to be when people start when I say the word production, you start thinking about just one after another, and this same. Right. You know, people go But then I think about the Drees Company and how you guys have set things up. I mean, you built multifamily condominiums, you built apartments, you've built single family homes, you've done retail store. I mean, you've done all kinds of things, and you also have a division where you build on people's lots, right? I mean, you're going out and building custom houses, which is ridiculous because that's what I do, and I don't know why you feel the need to go do that. But
well, there's good money to be had there.
Right? So I think the other thing we want to talk about is the amount of employees in the business that you run over there, and we're going to talk about a few of the employees that you've had that I know of at the Drees Company, who are just spectacular people as well. So, you know, why don't we start out? Tell us a little bit about your family, your mom and your dad, your grandpa, your wife, and I mean, just if you want to, let's talk about them for a little bit.
Wow, that's a lot right there, for sure. I'm married to my lovely wife, Karen, for 35 years.
Wow.
So we're blessed to have a great family.
Yeah.
I've got 3 kids.
Nice.
2 of which are in the business.
Are they?
Yeah, they are.
I was going to ask you that. So are they set up for succession or?
Well, they're working on it.
They're working on it.
It's my oldest daughter, Alexa, runs our design center here in Cincinnati, and also She actually has management responsibilities for design centers in Indianapolis and Cleveland as well.
Good.
So she's doing a great job for us. And my son is 29. He's currently actually just got a promotion, but he's been in Indianapolis for the last couple of years as a sales manager over there.
Okay.
And we're going to move him back into Cincinnati and actually start up a townhomes division. So a division focused strictly on the multifamily townhome for sale product.
Good.
So that's going to be a great opportunity for him.
How do you balance that? Because your sister's in the business, and then do you have other family members that are in the business?
Not right now. So it's just me and my sister.
Okay.
And my two kids.
Okay.
So it's pretty narrow, which is nice.
That is nice.
We encourage other family members to work in the business. But it's also a management challenge as well.
Yeah. So do you have some, is it you? Because I'd hate to be in that position if I had a couple of nephews and nieces and different people and kids in there, and then I got my sister over here and somebody else over here, and you got to make the decision is somebody going to take this thing over, or are they making progress, or do you have other people in place that are saying that they're reporting to besides you?
Run that by me again.
Is your daughter reporting to?
Oh yeah, no, they're not reporting to me.
Yeah, they're not reporting to you. You're not saying, "Yep, you're moving up the ladder," and then they're going, "Yeah, there's Daddy's kid running that deal."
Well, it's a balancing act for sure. They've got to earn their place.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that develops.
Yeah.
But so far, in the roles they're in,
that's good.
Both my sister and my two kids do a great job.
That's good.
So I'm speaking of my sister. I'm one of five. I got one brother and three sisters, all of whom have worked in the business at some point in time. In their lives. In most cases, much earlier. And then also I'm responsible for the home building business, but we also have an apartment business. We own, manage, develop apartments. But that's we separated that off years ago. It's totally separate. My brother-in-law runs that company.
All right.
So
nice.
We've got that dynamic going on.
That's good. That's good. What does Barb do?
She's our vice president of marketing.
Okay.
And speaking of the reporting structure, years ago, Barbara was reporting to me, and does a great job.
Yeah.
But she's a strong woman. She's independent. And so I actually went to my dad and said, you know what? I think this would be better if maybe Barbara reported to somebody else. And so that's what we did. So she actually reports to Dan Jones, who's our chief operating officer, if you will. So he runs all our profit centers, operating divisions.
Yeah.
So Barbara reports to him. So good luck, Dan.
She's awesome. I think I was telling you that I was at a wedding with her. She's really good friends with the girl that I grew up with, and so when her kids get married, then Barbara's there, and I think I flew to a builder show with Barbara, sitting in the same row with Barbara. So we've always been around each other. And we were at this last wedding, I don't know how many months ago, and walking down through somewhere with her. And I was like, you know what? I need to get David's phone number because I want to have him on my podcast. And then later on, I was sitting there thinking about it. And I'm like, she probably thinks I'm some kind of asshole because why wouldn't I have her on the podcast? And she's like, well, what about me? And I'm like, I'm going to have her on here some other time.
You better. Otherwise, she might not promote this podcast.
I know. I screwed that up, didn't I? I probably should have.
Probably.
So your family's always been awesome, and I was curious about how that structure works, because it's got to be difficult because that can make or break Christmas dinners. You know what I mean?
For sure.
If something goes awry in business and it turns,
we've been really lucky, but my dad, I think, has also been very sharp and smart about being progressive at managing the family business as a family, or manage the family as a family business, and putting in place the mechanisms to and the policies and the culture that are balanced. Yeah. That are good for the family and good for the business.
So did he have any brothers or anything like that was working?
He did. I guess he learned from that experience as well because, let's just start with my grandfather. Yeah. We kind of skipped over that a little bit, but my grandfather's a German immigrant. So we like to say we've been in business for 95 years. Yeah. He started building his first house in 1928. And by the way, he wasn't a very successful first house. The Great Depression got him a little bit. It was not probably in the best location. It wasn't near, it was, out in Wilder, Kentucky. It wasn't near the bus line or transportation line. So they, and he didn't have partners. He had probably 2 or 3 partners on that deal. Took a couple years to build the house. The recession came along. They couldn't sell the house. I think my grandfather actually lived in the basement for a while. And then they finally sold the first house. And then they took what they made off that and started to build a couple more houses.
Wow.
And a couple more houses.
Man.
Yeah. And that's kind of how all that started. But as we move on down the road, my grandfather had two sons, Ralph and Richard. And what he did is he said they worked for him, but he set them up as if they were in their own separate company.
Okay.
So my dad got basically Kenton County.
Yeah.
And my uncle got Campbell County, and he did a lot in Fort Thomas actually. But they could never really, they always wanted to do their own things. They were independent, they were entrepreneurial. So at some point in time, they split up.
Okay.
And my dad did what my dad did, and my uncle did what my uncle did, and here we are.
Yeah.
So I think my dad learned a lot from that experience, trying to work with other family members, inside a family business. And he wanted to maybe do it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Going forward.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's good. I didn't know that either. Cause you kind of know somebody, but you don't really know the whole story. And to hear this is really cool. And of course you could read about it on your website, but to know the details. So one of the questions I was thinking about is Matt Tobin and Matt came over. He was your dad's age though, right? He wasn't your grandpa's age.
He was a little.
He is. I shouldn't say was. He is.
He is he's pretty much my dad's age. Maybe a couple years older. But yeah.
So they started building about the same time that your grandpa did, right? I mean, or roughly, or somewhere in there. And they were all German immigrants. And because the only reason I'm thinking about this story is because they were both building in the same areas. They were both German immigrants. They both had hard German accents, and they both kind of started out the same way and struggling and getting through those times.
Yeah, it's a great story. So Northern Kentucky in particular has a very strong German community. To immigrate into the United States, I think back in those times you needed a sponsor.
Oh, okay.
So my sponsor for my grandfather was Khrushchev's Builders. So that's how he was able to. That's why he immigrated to Northern Kentucky.
Okay.
Right. And I'm not so sure who sponsored Matt. But I know Matt came over, and of course, his building community is very chubby. We all help each other out, and we talked about that earlier. But I know Matt actually, my grandfather actually helped Matt get started in business.
Yeah. All right.
So it's a great story.
That is a good story.
Yeah.
I think you and I were at when Matt had his farm over there in Kentucky, the cattle farm, and they'd have this big party the night before their annual cattle sale.
Right.
And of course my wife and I are cattle farmers, and so we're over there looking to buy some cows. Well, this is the first time I'm really around the Tobins, all of them together. I mean, I've seen them and talked to them, but Matt comes up and he's hard German accent, and he's like, I've known your dad for 30 years. And he comes over and he says, and they're all drinking Jägermeister, and they're walking around with a tool belt with like bottles of Jägermeister in there, and they've got that stick that's got the shot glasses in it, and they just keep filling it up. And I don't drink whiskey, I drink beer, and that's as far as I go. And he's like, drink a shot of Jägermeister. So we drink one, and then I'll start talking to John. We got to drink a shot of Jägermeister, and I drink another one, and like, I don't know, maybe an hour later, I'm sitting there, and I can't remember the guy's name that ran that farm. His last name was Gallagher, and we're looking through the sale catalog. I'm talking about what we need to do tomorrow the next day to think about buying this. And I remember I was so drunk that I'm like looking at the sale catalog, and I'm like, well, what about this one? What about this one? And I flipped through the pages, and I opened it back up, and I'm like, well, I'm looking at her too. And he goes, that's the same one. You keep talking about the same thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm out. But that was always a fun time being over there with them.
Yeah, for sure. They like to have fun.
Yeah.
It must be part of their strategy, though.
I think it is. Yeah, right. We should do that here. We should start serving alcohol before we sign contracts.
Yeah, that'll work.
It's the auctioneering method. So this is good stuff. I didn't because the west side of Cincinnati has a big German presence over there. They have a German society. You know, there's different Don Schwaben, there's different Germania Park, and there's a number of different things there. So there's a big German presence presence because we're German, it's a big German presence in Southwest Ohio and Northern Kentucky. And I think about that story and of how your family and Tobin's helped each other. And that was really cool. So let's go. So we're talking about your grandpa. We're talking about your dad, talking about you guys in the business and how your business is set up. And so there's a point in time where, well, hold on, we were talking about your wife there for a minute, weren't we? We were talking about Karen.
Karen, yeah.
You guys have been married for 35 years.
Yeah.
So how did you guys meet?
Well, her parents and my parents were friends. So everybody thinks me and Karen knew each other from grade school or high school on, and that's not the case. We met at a cross-country meet. Her brother was running cross-country for Highlands, and my brother was running for Covenant Catholic. And so I come to watch the meet, and my mom and Karen's mom's there, and I get introduced to Karen. And I think the next week, a couple weeks later, it was the regional championship. Saw Karen again. I think next week later was the state championship. Saw Karen there again.
All of a sudden, you're interested in cross country.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or maybe she was, one or the other. But so we were spending some time together, and she was like, and I was thinking, well, what am I going to do here? And she kind of beat me to the punch and said, what are you guys doing tonight?
There you go.
Well, I don't know, but I'll give you a call. We'll work something out. And so we've been together ever since.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good. Yeah. And I was going to get to this later, but let's talk about Gary. Her dad, Gary Schwalbach, is what I would go down in history to say the single greatest salesperson in the history of mankind, right?
Yes.
I mean, and he's such a great person, such a nice guy. But Gary he was a salesperson for Cadillac. I mean, but we all think he just ran a joint. I mean, like if you go down there, he thinks he ran a joint. But I mean, he sold Cadillacs to everybody. I mean, everywhere you go. But he was always the nicest person. I mean, he didn't know me from nothing. But I know your dad. And he'd come in and just start talking to you and having conversation with you, not trying to sell you anything. Right. But one of the greatest stories I think about, two greatest stories I think about Gary is Bob Lucky, who's a builder here in Cincinnati, was telling me one time he's looking for a new car, and he's like, well, I was looking at this. And he goes, I think I'm gonna go down to see Gary. And I'm like, well, whatever you do, you make sure that Gary is the last person you go see, because when you go talk to him, you're gonna buy a car. And he goes, no, I'm just looking. I'm like, no, you're not. When you go talk to Gary, you don't look, you buy. That's all you're gonna do. That's all you're gonna do. So I talked to him. I knew he was gonna go down and see him. I talked to him about a week later, and I said, hey, how'd it go with Gary? And he goes, hell, I ended up buying this. He's like, tell me this car. I said, I told you, man, Gary will sell it to you right now.
Right. Yeah. He's amazing. He was actually the number one Cadillac salesperson in the country. Yeah. Out of Thompson McConnell, which is not the biggest dealership around for sure in Cincinnati. Yeah. Which is just an amazing thing.
That is amazing.
But he has that knack.
We were at opening day one time, and I think it's after the game, or maybe it's a rain delay or something. And we want to get into the machine room, and we're standing in line, and we're waiting. Well, I can see him inside the machine room, and I'm like, Gary, can you get us in there? There's hundreds of people waiting. And he's like, hold on a minute. He goes up and says something to the hostess, and like 2 seconds later, they come out and get us, and they walk us into the machine room. I thought we were going to get killed. I'm like, what did you say to her? He's like, don't worry about it. I took care of it.
He can talk his way out of anything.
He can. Yeah. But he's such a great person.
Maybe a little money helped too. I don't know.
He probably did. He's greasing them a little bit.
Exactly. Here, take care of me.
So I'm glad we talked about him, because I think every time we see each other at the ball game, he's got a ton of energy, and he is amazing. He's been 6 months out of the year in Florida now. Yeah. But he plays tennis every day. Man. When he does come back here, he plays the senior softball. Huh. He's always swimming and exercising. I mean, he's just super, super active down How old
there.
Is he?
He won't tell. He won't tell. So I better not say.
Yeah, he's probably 30, 35, 40, something like
that. He's got more energy than a 35-year-old.
He does. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, my wife, she has some of those same characteristics, which kind of... it's becoming on her.
Nice. I'm glad you slowed down on that.
Yeah, right, exactly. She's a little fire plug too. I like to say she's got a lot of passion. So.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Does she ever have any desire to work in a business or anything like that?
Oh, she tells me all the time she's working for the business.
Yeah. Right. My wife is too.
She's a social director. That keeps her pretty busy.
My wife is a supporting.
But she's always complaining she's not getting paid. I said, "You're getting paid. Look at this lifestyle you got here. Come on."
I know. Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. So, another thing that makes me think, because we came over to your house for a retirement party one time, and you and and Karen lived really close to your mom and dad. Like
right.
Your houses are basically connected, right? Mm-hmm. So you guys really had a tight bond with your mom and dad.
Right.
And so I just wonder, how was that? I mean, you're working together, you're living together, not together, but close to each other, and you guys do so many different things together. That you had a really good relationship with your dad, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, great. My dad's no longer with us. So
right.
He died about 3 years ago, I believe. But yeah, living next to him was great. I think it was great for my kids because they got to know their grandparents very well. My mom still lives in that house.
Yeah.
And she's doing fantastic, by the way.
That's good.
She'll be turning 90 here in July coming up. And she is sharp as it can be. She still has her health, drives. She's doing super.
And she worked with your dad in the company, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. She did our payroll.
Yeah.
That was kind of her specialty, if you will. And she's sharp. She's detail oriented. She's disciplined. So that was a perfect job for her. And she knew all of our employees, and I think the story goes she knows all of our employee numbers.
Right.
Every employee has a number.
Yeah.
And she for a while there she knew all of them.
That was cool
for years.
At Terry Seaver's retirement party, she said she had a little like a Rolodex that she kept everybody's name and their employee number in there. Yeah. And she remembered the date that he started and his number. And I'm like, that's awesome. I know.
That was really cool.
That is cool.
Hey, but getting back to living next to my mom and dad, so it had a lot of advantages for sure. But it also, I'm working with my dad. I'm living next to my dad. And it's like, it added some little pressure to the thing because you needed your kind of time away from your working relationship. So we built my wife wanted a carriage garage, and I said, I don't really want a carriage garage. We don't need a carriage garage. We don't need to do anything like that. Besides, where are we going to put it? We don't have enough space. She said, sure, you got to put it right there. It'll be fantastic. It will look great. Which is in our hillside between our house and my mom's house. So we put that in. Of course, Who did it? Yeah, right. It kind of gave us a little more privacy and separation, which I guess was a good thing because we felt like, my mom and dad was always, hey, what are they guys doing down there today,
It's like everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We need a little more separation here.
That's good. Yeah. I always enjoyed your dad, talking to your dad, and such an insightful person, and your mom too. I mean, and there's a lot of them in you, and I think that's how the relationship begins. When you start talking to people. Yeah. So your dad is the person's your grandpa's building these houses, and and your dad goes to work for him.
Right.
So they're building in Northern Kentucky. Right. It's your dad who decides where was the first place, the other city that you decided to build in, and how does he make that decision?
Well, the biggest, probably the hardest move we made was actually crossing that Ohio River and building in Cincinnati.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that was tough. You would think it would be super easy, but all new trade base.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
different insurance, different everything.
Everything was different.
Yeah,
and you kind of pretty cliquey back then too, I guess.
Yeah.
So he had to develop all new relationships for sure.
It's still that way, I think.
All right. The next move was in 1984. 84, yeah. We decided to go to Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And I guess the company had moved to Cincinnati. We've gotten fairly big as a company. He was pretty built up an organization to handle that size and continue to grow the organization. And then boom, the housing recession of the early 80s, 81, 80, 81, 82 hit. And it was like, and we were in the middle of the Rust Belt. So everyone was predicting that the Rust Belt, wasn't going to come back. So he wanted to keep this organization together. He had to build houses somewhere else.
Yeah.
So they did a little market research, blah, 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 blah. But they decided to go to Dallas, Texas, because they could get there, direct flight. The building practices were pretty similar. A lot of masonry, architecture, wood frame construction. But primarily the reason was it was the biggest market in the country. And they figured if they can't figure out how to build houses and sell enough houses in Dallas, they couldn't do it anywhere else. So that gave them the best chance. Huh. So those are the reasons why. That was the motivation and why they moved to another location, and the reasons we selected Dallas.
It's simple when you say it like that, but it's super innovative to think about that. Right. I'm sitting there thinking, well, maybe he was on vacation down there and just liked the area. Yeah. But it's a lot of research to think about the market, but to think about the similar practices that they would use down there is what we would use up here. You can use the similar plans that you already have in your database. You have a lot of those different things that can transfer to that.
Exactly. Well, we did use similar plans, which gave us actually at the time, we were unique in that market because no one else is building a Midwestern type product. And so we were able to develop a niche in Dallas. There probably was some familiarity because I went to school in San Antonio, Texas. Okay. And then, of course, back then we had the Home Builders Convention rotated around. So it would be in Houston, then it'd be in Dallas, then it'd be in Vegas. So I think there was some familiarity from going to the Home Builders Conventions in Texas over the years. Yeah. Yeah.
I love Texas. We're getting ready to go to, because we're in a Builder 20 group. Has anybody from the Drees company ever been in the Builder 20 groups?
We haven't done a Builder 20 group, but I did have a Builder Pure group that was in for maybe 10 years, maybe 15. That was a fantastic experience for us. Now, that was more like 5 or 6 builders. Okay.
Were they all the similar size
to you? Similar size.
Okay.
We actually had one public company in there, which was Hovnanian Homes. Yeah. But I think everyone else was private. Okay. Yeah. 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 So it was the best thing we've done, or I've done, for sure, to help my development.
I feel the same way. I mean, my work in the Home Builders Association and my work in the Builder 20 group has been one of the greatest things that I've ever done because especially with Builder 20, because you can be wide open with those guys because it's secluded. You sign confidentiality agreements and nobody's in your market. Mm-hmm. So you're building, you're meeting with them. We're getting ready to go to Beaumont, Texas and meet with that guy down there. So we go twice a year to whoever's place is hosting it. But just it's not even just the camaraderie. We build similar products. And the other reason I was asking that is because we get the national averages for custom home builders on gross profit, net profit, and dollar volume. And then they also give us the production numbers too. So there's big companies and there's small companies, and you can see the difference in that. Right. But I was on the executive committee with Terry Sievers, which was, one of your, what was Terry for you guys? I thought he was like, you worked for him, right?
You probably thought so. Yeah, exactly. No, Terry was, he ran our Midwest region. So he would run Cincinnati and Cleveland for sure. Yeah. Now, before that, he actually ran our commercial property division. Okay. And that was part of the company, and we managed and owned apartments. Yeah. So those are the two key roles that he had for us.
He's a numbers guy. He's like an accountant by trade, and just is super smart. And but I was on the executive committee with him, which back then meant that I spent 5 or 6 years with him almost every single day doing something, through the Home Builders Association. I learned so much from him, and it shows because you've got a number of different people that we can talk about that work for the Drees company, but the level of intelligence, the level of just personality, and outgoing, and just, I can't say enough about these people. How do you, I'm jumping around again here, but how do you find that talent? That's amazing that you get those people. And we talked about core values a little bit before we came in this room, but is it your core values? Is it do you have a criteria that you're looking for, or is it just like you look at this person and maybe they're qualified qualified, but they don't meet the personality. I mean, how do you come up with this? You've got some really good people that have come through there, and you have some great people that are there now.
Well, thank you. And I think a lot of it is our culture. We've got a good, strong foundation on our culture, and we attract and obviously hire people that share those same values.
Yeah.
But I also give a lot of credit to my dad, because one of the reasons he was able to grow is because he was an entrepreneur, right? But he wasn't afraid to give up control.
Yeah.
So he would hire people that had skills that he did not have, and put them in place and let them do their job. And that, you don't see that a lot with entrepreneurs. But that's how my dad was, and that's how we were able to attract a lot of very, very strong people.
So when you go to Dallas and you're building in Dallas, and then I don't know where you guys went next, but was that your dad saying, let's go over here, or was that somebody else that was in the company going, hey, we could do this, or we could do this? How does that spread?
Well, you probably know Jack Miller, who for years was our vice president of marketing. So he was big on our growth strategy for sure.
Okay.
So he was part of all those discussions. So it's really a combination of those two guys figuring that out, and then figuring out how we would do it.
Yeah.
Jack actually was instrumental in when we moved to Dallas. We actually recruited a guy by the name of Mike Rubery, who was working for Ryan Homes here in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And Jack Miller specifically recruited Mike to come work for us just so we could start up our Dallas operation. So Mike had to actually move his family to Dallas.
Wow.
To do that job.
He was president of the Home Builders Association here, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah.
In Cincinnati.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've got a lot of past presidents,
I know.
don't we?
You guys have really done a great job with allowing, people to come in there and do that. I say allow because it's a lot of time.
Right.
And for somebody in your company to come over there and do that. I mean, I'm one person, I've done it one time, and it's like, okay, and I still have been involved. But when you start thinking about your company and you've got 10 people, 15 people, including Northern Kentucky, including these other areas, and your given day, you might have 100 people that are involved in Home Builders Association meetings somewhere across the country. That's a lot.
That is a lot. And it speaks to our industry that we work in. We believe in giving back and making the industry stronger and better.
Yeah.
But it's also when our people participate in that, we get benefit from that as well, because we've increased our network and our understanding of things going on.
Yeah.
And, again, that really starts with my dad, because he was president twice of our local, the Northern Kentucky HBA, but he also served a stint as the Kentucky president of the HBA.
Yeah. I knew you, and it's your home base. That's a tough deal for the Home Builders Association, for the National Association, because you got so many different associations, especially like in Southwest Ohio. We've got Cincinnati, we've got Northern Kentucky, we've got the Western Ohio Home Builders Association, we've got Dayton, and you guys have to be members of all of these. I'd hate to see what the fees you pay in the Home Builders Association per year, but I mean the dedication that you give to it. But it's do you do one or do you do the other? And you guys have got such a presence in all of them. So it's a lot going on. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing.
That is you and not me.
Speaking of the experts that we're talking about that can do a job that we can't, those are the guys that are calling me. Right. Thinking about going back to your dad, and he was a judge or something like that over there too, wasn't he?
Well, his title was judge executive. It's really a political position. So he ran our county. He was like, they have county commissioners. Yeah. So Kenton County has 3 county commissioners and 1 judge executive. So the judge executive is like the chairman of the Kenton County Commission. Okay. So it's a political position. He, I think, was appointed there into that position. Then he ran for election and served out that term. Yeah. And it was great for him because he's always been involved and liked politics and community involvement and giving back to the community. It was great for me because he was focused on, that was pretty much a full-time job. So he was focused on that, and then I could just kind of do what I wanted running the company. So it was really great.
Find something else for him to do.
Yeah, right.
That's good. I know your dad, when Terry and I were on the executive committee, and Terry was all about the Drees company. I mean, he was dedicated. He was just, that's what he did for his whole life. And his brother, and your dad must have come up to him and said something like, when Terry was getting ready to go through the executive committee, he must have said something like, don't forget, you still got work to do here at the Drees company. And Terry was just like, are you kidding me? That's something that my dad would say to me, all the time. He's like, you don't need to go do that. This is what you need to focus on, because it can draw a lot of your attention away from what you're doing.
It can.
And the guys that have been there, done that, they understand that.
They'll do a great job with it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So thinking about the custom, let's go back to the custom and what you guys do and how you set this thing up. Because I've always been fascinated with, because I make mistakes all the time building these houses. Well, the first time we ever built this house, and there's all kinds of things happening to it, and it costs money every time you do something like that. Right. So when you guys are talking about building these houses, and you've got so many different, because I don't give up control. That's why I'm not growing.
You got to get control up.
Give up control very good. So you guys, I mean, you've got out in the field, you have assistants, you have supervisors, you have project managers, you have production managers, you have all these different people. How did you handle that when the big companies over here and the guys out in the field are over here, and they're working, and something happens and they make a mistake, or something goes wrong, or somebody screws something up and it costs you dearly. And that, I mean, I'm thinking about, I build a couple houses a year, and you guys are building hundreds of houses a year. How do you prevent that from happening? How do you prevent from not just like every day just going, oh my gosh, we're just going to die?
Well, number one, you got to have the right mindset. My dad always used to say, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. Yeah. So that says it all right there.
That's good.
You expect to make mistakes. Now, you don't want to make it the second time.
Right.
If you make it the third time, we got a problem. But you got to learn from your mistakes too, right? So you got to put policies and procedures in place. You got to correct your plans and specifications. You got to get the right vendors working for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a you got to go through that loop, that cycle.
Yeah.
Of continuous improvement.
Is there massive training that you guys have for people in specific roles that, some of the guys out in the field are probably trained because they're learning from experience as they're going through there. But before you hire a supervisor that's going to be running this jobs in this neighborhood, do you have the Drees way, and they're coming in and they're sitting down and going through classes and things? Yeah,
we do. Probably the biggest thing we do is we'd like to hire from within, right? So we actually will recruit what we call builder trainees from colleges, and most of them have got some kind of a construction management degree. Yeah. But we'll bring them in, put them in our training program, which is about a 1 year long process. Okay. And we've got different modules they've got to accomplish, and we'll test them on it. And then if everything's working out great, hopefully a year or so down the road, we have an opportunity for them, and they'll be capable. We'll promote them into the what we call the builder role, which is the job site superintendent role. Yeah. So that's how we mostly do it. Now, sometimes we'll hire a builder from outside the organization. He knows how to build houses from, Wheeling Builders. We got to retrain him then,
Trust me, I know.
Exactly. We got to teach him the right way to do it. So they might go through some of the same modules, but it's really just their manager, going through the process with them and providing that oversight and that leadership.
So you basically you're going back to the basics for what your grandfather did with your dad and your uncle, when you're saying, here's a neighborhood, go build it. I mean, they're not handling all the budgeting and things like that, but they're going and building the whole neighborhood, and that's got to be a big day, to celebrate for a guy that's been there, or a girl that's been there for a year and training, and all of a sudden you turn them over to a new neighborhood. Do you guys celebrate? Do you do anything? Is it a big deal?
Well, maybe we should. Yeah.
Because this is my Builder 20 group talking. I mean, these guys do all kinds of things. Like when they hire somebody, in the first day they come in, they have like a birthday cake or something like that. And they're really doing some cool things. Cool. When we were in Seattle and in the Boeing manufacturing, when they get done with a plane, everybody that worked on that plane, they walk with it. There's hundreds of people walking this plane out to the runway, so they're going to watch it take off. Yeah. And I think, man, for me, if I'm there for a year, and it's all right, go build your neighborhood.
We need a celebration.
Yeah, it'd be a big time party.
So we got to improve in that area.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
I'm just setting myself up to put my application for you guys at some point because I want to come work there. I was down there. I think I was selling a lot to you guys probably about 6 or 8 months ago, and I tried to stop in and see you, but there's a lot of gates for me to get to David Drees when I'm in that building. But
we make it complicated too, don't we? It's like, where are those guys at?
But you have a classroom in there, right? I mean, like on the first floor when you walk in, and it's a training facility, so you're always training. You cannot have somebody come in and say, "Okay, we hired you, great," and then when they go out and they don't do their job the right way, you say, "All right, well, you can't work anymore." You constantly got to be training.
We do.
So do you have somebody that's I imagine you do probably that's in charge of training and learning?
We have over the years, and we just actually refilled that role.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since we actually had someone focused on that, but no question, we need that.
Yeah.
So Matt Graves, our VP of production, kind of heads up and spearheads and makes sure we're doing the right training for our production guys. Barbara will make sure we're doing the right training for our marketing staff. So we've got functional executives who are making sure we're doing the right things. And now we just have the training director rehired. They'll have help in that area.
Yeah.
Speaking of training, we did something super interesting, I think, this past year where we trained every single employee in the company on our culture and our customer service principles. Really super. Want to get everybody super focused on taking care of our customers and taking us up to the next level. So we actually hired this company to do this roadmap, which you lay it out on a table, and you get a group of 10 employees together, and the roadmap they'll educate our employees on a little bit of the history of the company and why we do what we do, and our cultural principles, but also our customer service principles, which we call CARE, which is an acronym. So we want to communicate effectively with our customers. We want to always do the right thing. We believe in relationship building and forming long-term relationships. And E is excellent quality. Yeah. Exceptional quality. So if we do those things, we're going to have, obviously, a fantastic customer experience, which will lead to more business. So we do that in an interactive way with every single employee in the organization this past year. And we got a lot.
All across, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Man.
Yeah. So like in Cincinnati, we've got, let's just say 350 employees. We rented out the Drees Pavilion there in the DeVue Park, and we had a morning session with about 8 tables going at one time, 8 round tables going at one time. Then we did an afternoon session, and then we did that same thing the next day.
Wow.
And we got through this fairly quickly.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So they learned about our history, our culture, and our CARE principles. Yeah. In a very interactive, engaging session.
That's really cool. Yeah. I get into that stuff because we were a family owned and operated business, and at one point in time we had more family than we did employees. And then as time went on, we had more employees than we did family, which means that I've got to be a business person now. I've got to start being a different kind of leader and understanding job descriptions and how to motivate people, how to handle people, how to manipulate people's personality. Mm-hmm. I'm not manipulating them, but I have to understand their personality and understand how we're gonna work with them. Right. And just constantly learning about those things because I'm horrible at it. I'm the type of person just tells you exactly what's on my mind all the time. Right. Usually has a lot of cuss words in it, and people don't always like that. Right. So I learned a lot from people like you guys, from people from our Builder 20 group, from just being in different groups. But that is something that's
think
really,
about
really cool.
Managing our customers. Talk about different personalities. Yeah, and you've got to be in tune with that.
That's huge.
You can't just treat everybody the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have so many different people, and I deal with that a lot because I've got customers who are all CEOs. They're all running something. They're all big time people, which is really helpful for me because they're business people for the most part. Right. They understand what we're going through, so I can be more transparent with them on everything that we do, and they understand the inner workings of business. But at the same time, a lot of them are that same personality as me. They're type A or they're something like that, So I have to make sure I back down a little bit and understand where they're coming from. So that's really cool that you guys do that.
So you don't build for engineers?
I do. Okay, I build for engineers, lawyers. I build for all of them. Nobody wants to build for. I'm building for them.
is it's pretty easy for them. It's pretty cheap for them to sue you. So. They represent themselves.
But like you said, the communication and understanding communication and what we're doing. If you can communicate with these people, there's no reason in the world today for all of us not to be communicating, because the tools that are available to us to communicate with, that's definitely no excuse. Because if you think about it, I mean, when you and I first started back in the day, I mean, there wasn't even phones in on the job site or in the truck. You know, you guys had job trailers probably that had a phone in it.
Yeah.
I had a voice pager that somebody would call up and yell, you know, whatever they wanted me to say, and I'd have to write the number down real quick. I'd have to drive down to the gas station, put some quarters in the payphone, and then call whoever it was. And that just you'd call in the morning and you'd hope the guy showed up in the afternoon. There was a lot of horrible communication. It's amazing that we got anything done, you know, back then. And now I think that there's no reason for us to be communicating.
Well, we're a lot more efficient than we used to be, for sure. Technology has been amazing. And speaking of technology, that's one of the great things about hiring these young kids coming out of college, because they got more skills than we have.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm trying to keep up, but I'm falling behind.
I'm the same way. My son's is 12 years old, and I'm always constantly saying, well, what about this? What about this? And asking him to, you know, what can I do? What my phone does all these different things. And there's so many different computer programs that we have in here. They do more than what I ever would believe that they do, but we just use it for one specific purpose. And those younger generation can make these things they can max it out. You know, they can do all kinds of things like that. So how often do you go to Dallas, and how often do you go to Tennessee and Cleveland? And I mean, are you needed to go there, or?
Well,
is it regimented? I mean, do you like
I have other people that travel.
Yeah.
So we have regional presidents who have the primary responsibility of overseeing those cities, and they'll go once a month or once every other month in that range.
Okay.
So I'll go to each city at least once a year. Probably most cities. I don't know about most cities, but Dallas, that's our second biggest market. So I'm probably there 3 times a year.
Okay.
So somewhere between 1 and 3.
Is there any place in the country that you go to because I'm Cincinnati? I mean, when you're in the Midwest, there's certain things that we have here that are just convenient. They're easy, you know, I mean, they're nice. And when you get somewhere else, those conveniences aren't the same as what we're used to. And there's very few places I can go anywhere in the world where I'm like, I could live here. I like this. You know, Charlotte's one of those places. I love Charlotte, and I'm like, I could live here. I really like it here. Is there any place like that for you where you guys are building, or any other place?
Nashville, probably.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the one that'd be most comfortable for me.
Yeah.
It's just a gorgeous city. It's got a lot of activity going on.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun.
Yep.
Down there. And I think the climate is ideal. You got a little bit of the seasons.
Yeah.
But certainly head in the right direction as far as the winter's concerned.
Right. Yeah. The winters are tough.
Yeah.
The winters are tough. And this is a good Ray Navarevich story, is that he and I when we were in the Home Builders Association, he was president, and we drive up to Columbus for our Ohio Home Builders Association meetings. And a lot of times we would ride together. And we were coming back one time, and it's early to mid-spring, and so there's no leaves on the trees, you know. I mean, and he's looking out the window and he goes, I could understand why people think Ohio is a depressing place to live. I'm like, what are you talking about? We live here, you know. Right. And he starts giving that different mentality, that different philosophy, is that, you know, there's only green grass so many days out of the year. There's only sunshine so many days out of the year. There's only leaves on the trees so many days out of the year. And I started putting all this together and started thinking about it. I'm kind of pissed off that he said this to me, because now I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm depressed for living here. But I started thinking about it. When I get around, if we've had a tough winter, like a long winter, and you get around the end of February coming into March, and it's still not giving us any relief, I'm like personally down in the dumps, and I'm struggling to just get excited about anything. And it makes it tough. So like I'd say, you know, I understand, you know, why people go to Florida.
For sure, you need that sunshine. Well, you know, Ray, he's got 2 houses now, so he's got one in Florida and one here.
So I haven't talked to him in a while, and he's on our list to talk about, because Ray's is a great guy. So we could start talking about Ray right now.
Yeah, let's talk about
Ray. Ray Navarevich. He and I became friends. Same way as a lot of these guys, is through the Home Builders Association, you know. But I think that Ray and I might have become friends when we were in the middle of the recession, and we were both building in Fort Scott. And of course, the developer disappeared.
Right.
And we've got all kinds of homeowners down there, and we've got the bank has taken over the neighborhood. Any value that you and I had in that whole neighborhood had just depleted. And so we had a homeowners association that was not up to it. It wasn't even established. So the homeowners wanted to say, "Hey, let's start meeting," and we were going to take this thing on ourselves. So Ray and myself met with the homeowners in our model. And they're coming at us like they're mad at us.
Yeah.
And we're like, "Hey, we built your house. We didn't build the neighborhood." And Ray has to be, he represents the Drees company. So he has to be calm, cool, collective, and not tell these people to kiss his ass, and I'm over there telling them to kiss my ass.
Yeah, right.
So I think we left there and Ray's like, hey, I think you did a good job. And I wasn't telling him to kiss my ass, but I was like, "Hey, if you ever need me to say something for you, just tell me what you need me to say. And I won't tell them it came from you." And so we formed that bond over that. We
Bad cop, good cop.
It was good. It was tough because those times were all tough, but it was good for us to bond. And then of course he got involved in the Home Builders Association and eventually became president.
Yeah.
But we went to some ball games. We just hung out. His wife is just a super person. She's a designer, does a lot of different stuff for you guys.
Yeah.
Tell me about how that relationship comes, because Ray came from, I think it was Ryland or Ryan, when he was a younger kid cleaning up job sites, and he comes up to run basically the Southwest Division for you guys, right? Southwest Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He actually worked for Fisher Homes.
Okay.
In between Ryan, he worked for Ryan, then Fisher. And then we were looking for, I believe, a construction manager at the time.
Yeah.
We interviewed several people, and Ray was one of them. And boom, we hired him.
Yeah.
And that's how he met Jill, because Jill actually working from we like to call him Brand X, those other guys from Fisher Homes. Jill was actually working for Fisher Homes as well, and that's where they met.
All right.
And then Jill decided to go in business for herself and do design work.
Yeah.
She's got a thriving business.
Yeah.
And she actually does a fair amount of work for us.
Yeah.
Right now.
She does a great job.
Yeah, she does. So Ray's retired. Of course, he's really working for Jill now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all work for our wives.
Yeah,
It's just that simple. He's the only one brave enough to do it or to say it. So, again, and I go back to this whole talking about personalities and people, and he's one of the guys that I learned so much from him, being around him. I understand how intelligent he is, and just the places that he fits, and I just like little things, like the way you guys look at things as a bigger builder as opposed to what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, I'm driving a truck with a trailer on it and going to go move a piece of equipment, and he's thinking about, you guys are thinking about the days of sunshine in Ohio and how you're going to make that productive for your employees and how you're going to build more houses. And I think that's really, really cool to think about. Man, I had another story for Ray, and I can't remember what it was, and we'll come back to it. But it was a good story too. No, I can't remember. So anyway, another guy I was going to talk about was Rex Gordon, and Rex, again, the way I met Rex was, and you're going to realize that if I would just quit talking to your employees, you wouldn't have as many people wrapped up in the Home Builder Association. But we do these directional signs, and we were, so when you pull up to an intersection and there was a sign that said, Drees Homes, Drees Model, this direction, Wheeling Builders this direction, whatever. Well, then all of a sudden, townships don't want signs anywhere, and they want us to stop putting the signs out. And then they don't want them out there during the day. They don't want them out there during the week. And then we negotiate with them. So all of a sudden, here comes this guy that's got a Southern accent that's sitting in a meeting, and he's just laying it out for him, and I'm over there like fired up, ready to like knock somebody out, and he's over there just intelligently talking to these people and just whispering through it. And I looked over at Dan Hendricks, who was at the Home Builder Association. I'm like, we need to get him involved in this deal. We need to get him involved in the home builders. And ever since then, so he became president. That was 2011, I think it was, or 12 that Rex was president. So he came from Texas, right?
Well, he's from Texas.
Yeah. I didn't know if that's where you guys met him at.
No, we, excuse me. No, we might have hired a recruiter. I'm not sure, but he actually he worked for Syntex Homes, which is a Texas-based builder, but he worked for him, and he did work for him in Dallas, but also in Chicago and Indianapolis. So they were moving around a little bit. He started in as a controller, so he's got an accounting background too, which is a little bit of a consistent theme here at Drees Homes. I think you got to know your numbers, especially if you work for my dad.
That's for sure,
because he knew his numbers too. But I think we hired a recruiter, and he was working as a division president in Indianapolis, and we hired him to be the division president here in Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how he got started.
That's good.
Yeah.
Just another great person. So here's the king himself that we're going to talk about, Mr. Don Mizrak.
Yeah.
Where did Don come from? Because Don, I mean, if you talk to Don, the Drees company wouldn't exist without Don, and he's the king. So what did Don do, and where did he come from, and how long ago was he involved in it? Let's not talk about him.
Don's a great guy, and he's been super instrumental in our for the company. And I worked for Don.
Did you really?
Directly? Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And he was a good guy to work for. I mean, he pushed you.
Yeah.
He questioned you. He gave you clear direction, as you can imagine. But Don's story was he's a finance guy, and let's just say he was our vice president of finance, might have been his title. And there's a void in our company because before that, Henry Fisher actually worked for us. He was our president.
Okay. He
left us in, I'm just pretty close on this. Let's say it's 1979, 80.
Okay.
So it was right during that housing recession that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And he started up his own company.
Huh.
So my dad's like, oh man, I lost another president. What am I going to do here? So I think he pretty much ran the company himself. But Don eventually took over and filled that void and ran our operations for us.
Okay.
So
he really did have a role over there. I thought he was just coming in every day, and people were just.
He had a big role. He's a good delegator, but he is a good delegator too.
Yeah.
Like I said, he knew he knew the right things to look at, the right buttons to push. As I was moving up through the ranks, I never worked for my dad directly until I assumed the president role myself. And before that, I reported to Don.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don's a fireball. So, I was buying, or I should say we were, when my dad still owned the company, and we were buying some lots off of him out in Mainville. And I can't remember what the discussion was. But he got all pissed off at me on the phone, and all I was doing was talking to him. But I don't even have the authority to buy the lots or say yes or no. And I'm just asking him some questions about the lots. And he starts screaming at me and yelling at me and carrying on. And I just hung up on him. And I called my dad and I said, "Does this guy got a screw loose, or what's his problem with him?" And he says, "Oh, I don't know. I'll talk to him. All right. So the next time I saw him, I said, "I want to just remind you," and I'm some dumb kid, I was probably 22, 23 years old. And I said, "I just want to remind you, I'm technically your customer. And you were screaming at me on the phone like I'm some kind of moron like that." And he was like, he just didn't even acknowledge it. But another time, my first Homerama site selection committee, they used to, and Don, but they used to serve alcohol all day long. And we'd get on a bus, and we'd had probably 10 sites to look at back then. Now you just, you're begging for sites, but back then we had 10 sites. We would drink, eat, every stop that you would go, they'd be serving us hors d'oeuvres, they're just catering to us because they want this show badly to come to their neighborhood.
Right.
And then we'd all go back to the Home Builders Association and we'd debate about what's going to happen, where we're going to go. And I remember I left this meeting, and it's probably, 10 o'clock at night, and we've been at it all day long. Everybody's drinking and carrying on. And Don is he's ready to fight. He's screaming at people, and he's hell bent on saying, this is the neighborhood. This is the reason why it needs to go there. And all these guys in this room, these big personalities, adding in alcohol, adding in all this passion. And I left that meeting, and my dad's like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "I am never going to another meeting again in my life." It scared the hell out of me. I couldn't believe it.
And luckily you did come back.
But I did, obviously. But I learned a lot from Don, and just from having different conversations with him, different meetings, and and being around him, and watching him debate with people about different things that he felt passionate about, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, very smart and insightful.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we've covered a lot of ground, and I think that a couple other things I want to talk about. And one of the things I want to talk about was family business, and we've covered that a lot. Talking about how you handle that, how you guys have spread out. I was always curious about the role between you you and Barb, and plus if you guys had kids and how you guys divvy that up, and how it's like if you have 4 brothers, how do you pick the best man in your wedding? You know, I mean, that makes it tough.
Yeah.
How did you guys get involved with the Cincinnati Reds? What made your decision to get involved with the Cincinnati Reds?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I've joined YPO in Cincinnati, which was very good for me as a young person, because it's kind of like the Builder 20 group you were talking about before, but on obviously home building is not the focus, so you get exposed to
what is YPO?
Well, it's a Young Presidents Organization.
Okay.
So when I became the president, I was very young, 34 maybe, something like that. And this organization is for people like that. So it's a lot of you don't have to be a family business, but a lot of other family businesses. And you get together and you have you break out into little forum groups like a Builder 20, but usually about 10 of you. So you get to know the other people on a very personal basis.
Is it all local companies?
All local. Okay. It's a national organization, but they have local chapters.
Okay.
So it's mostly local that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Anywho, through that, Phil Castellini, because I was in that for a number of years, and towards the latter half of my tenure there, Phil Castellini joined our forum.
Yeah.
And this is in 2006, I believe. Pretty sure I'm right.
Okay.
And this is before the great financial crisis.
Yeah.
Because the timing was different. We would have had a different decision. But at the time, we were going gangbusters. We were doing great financially. The Castellinis got involved in this Reds, and they're looking for minority partners.
Okay.
And Phil called up. I think they went through their Rolodexes and
they got to
decided
the
who's going to call who. And Phil called up me and actually another forum buddy of mine and asked us if we wanted to invest in the Reds.
That's really cool.
And it's a decent sized number. So I went to my dad and said, "Hey," I was probably hesitant to do it. My dad being more the entrepreneurial and aggressive thing. I said, "What do you think about this?" He said, "Yeah, let's do that." So we jumped in.
That's
and did
cool.
It. And so me and my dad split that up at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
so.
I was at, and we have nowhere near that involvement in the Reds. We're certainly not a minority owner. We just get season tickets, but being involved in the Reds was because I was at an event at the Cincinnati Zoo. We go down there for breakfast once a year, and Bob was speaking there, and Bob said, "Hey, if you're going to run a business in Southwest Ohio and you want to get involved in something, you need to be involved in the Cincinnati Reds and the Cincinnati Zoo." Mm-hmm. And I was listening to him, and I was talking to him afterwards, and kind of know him through another friend of mine, and I'm like, that seems to make sense. I mean, but you need to be involved at the right level to want to conduct business. So if I want to, I don't want to go sit in the bleachers and think that I'm going to get more business for Wheeling Builders. Yeah. I don't want to be doing something. So we want to get involved. That's how we started getting involved with the Reds, was because of the Castellini family. They're great
great salespeople.
We need to start thinking about hiring them.
Exactly.
Getting Phil out here and start doing a couple of things. So I was just telling you, we were at the Reds game last night, and of course they're struggling. How much do you know about baseball? I mean, how much do you love baseball? Because every time I'm there, you're there, I'm not there often, but I know you're there a ton. And I mean, you have to have, I just think about this with Bob, and I think about it with anybody who's involved in Major League Sports, is you have to have some sort of understanding of the game, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just talking to you about Hunter Green this morning, and you started talking about different things, and I'm like, that's a different view than I would have looked at it. How involved are you in baseball? I mean, how much do you know about baseball? How much do you love it?
Not as much as you would think, that's for sure.
Really?
Yeah, I do go to a lot of games, but I would say I'm a casual fan.
Okay.
I'm not studying up on anything, that's for sure. And I don't have my baseball career ended, I think, in the 8th grade. So, it's not like I have a lot of experience that way. I almost think we bought this for my wife's family because they love baseball.
Gary talked you into it.
They can talk all day about baseball. so they really appreciate it.
That's good.
But I just enjoyed the ride for sure.
Yeah.
It's a great experience. I got to meet a lot of people, do a lot of things I would never have done before. I guess it's a great investment. I mean, it's all on paper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So the Reds organization, again, is another organization that reminds me a lot of the Drees company. They have some excellent people that work there. I mean, just some really, really good people that work there. We had our salesman on here, maybe, I guess it was probably 2 episodes ago, and his name's Craig Sample. He's one of the, executive salespeople down there, and listen to him talk about how his admiration for the club, his admiration for the Castellinis, his admiration for just working with the Reds. I think that's really, really something that you strive for your employees, to be able to think about the organization like that. And I mean, Megan Sternberg, she was our first salesperson, or maybe our second salesperson, but she's just got this energy about her, and she'll call you up out of the blue, and I mean, what's Red Stadium hold 37,000 people or something, and she calls you up out of the blue and just like, hey, how's it going?
Right.
Like,
she's
holy
amazing.
cow. Yeah, she's amazing.
She's got a lot of energy.
She does.
The thing that, so yeah, they attract a lot of people, and I think a lot of people want to work in that industry. Like, they love sports.
Yeah.
So they have that advantage going for them. But what amazes me is how many people it takes to run a friggin' baseball club.
I can't imagine.
I mean, of course, you got the minor leagues and all that stuff too, but it's like, holy Toledo, do we really need all these people?
Yeah. But do they?
I don't know. They say they do. It's like, do we need all these scouts? Do we need all these analytical people? What are these people really doing? I think they've grown quite a bit. They were talking about how they running out of office space. They've got the space right there by the stadium, which is really, really cool. But I'm like, what the heck? We're running out of office space. How many more people do we need to hire?
Right.
That's just a business person, I think, coming out on me.
Well, that's what I would think that they would enjoy having, because we were talking about the renovations that they did down there, but they would rely on. I think about the same way at our church. I'm like, I've got a certain set of skills. Why don't you rely on me to come in and help you do certain things? Right. I would think about that with the Reds, and coming to you and saying, hey, we're getting ready to renovate this. What do you think about this? And I don't, whatever. Well, but I would think that having a lot of owners that are business people who are intelligent people, that would be helpful for them to bounce ideas off of the group. Do they do that or no?
Well, they get a lot of input. Yeah. So I think they make some pretty good decisions. Unwanted input. They get a lot of unwanted, for sure. Everybody knows how to run a baseball club.
Exactly.
Of course, we got the same problem in our industry, right?
Right.
Everybody knows how to build a house.
Everybody's smarter than I am. Everybody's been there, done that. Yeah. So I never realized how stupid I was until I asked somebody a question. Right. So that's good. That's good. I had a couple other topics that and we're bumping up against like where nobody's going to want to listen to us anymore. So it's all right. Let me ask you this. So, here's one on a baseball question. I don't know if you watch movies or not, but you ever seen Moneyball?
For sure.
How that philosophy is something that I think is really cool. Do you think that any Major League Baseball teams or the Reds or anybody, do you think they rely on that?
Oh, for sure.
They do.
The analytics has taken over baseball.
Yeah.
And it's not just the A's. It's the whole, and it's not new either. I mean, this has been an evolution. Every team relies on analytics. They got more statistics and more ways to measure things than you could think of.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool that when they were in the room there and they're talking about this guy and this guy and this guy, and the guy who's whispering in the main guy's ear, Billy's like, I don't want you, because I want that guy. And I feel like that's a lot of our business. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be looking at the big starry, bright shining light. We need to be looking at the other things that are happening around us and see the intelligence that comes from the support. Yeah.
So what's the main thing? What's the one thing that's most important? And Billy Bean figured that out.
Yeah.
Right, through the help of some guru guy.
Right.
When you figure it out in home building, let me know.
Yeah, I will. I'll call you.
Well, there's something.
I'll call you tomorrow. I'll probably figure it out. So another thing that I was thinking about was, when we think about cost, and we're always, because we were talking about numbers, and your dad knew the numbers, and you know the numbers, and I know the numbers, and we're always trying to keep the bottom number bigger than the top number, because that's how you make money. But you have to hit a certain cost, a certain price to fill your market? Because I ran into you last year. I think we were at the Reds game. It was right when they bumped the interest rates and it went crazy. And I'm looking at you and you're going like, man, here we go again. This is ridiculous. It stops the business. It doesn't hurt our business as bad because our people aren't as reliant on that mortgage rate. But when we look at your business, it's one tick, that goes up and it stops. We used to have statistics at the home builders through the Buckeye Institute that every time the price of a house went up $1,000, there was something like 600 people in the greater Cincinnati area that lost the opportunity to buy that house. Goes up 2,000. It's the numbers keep climbing and climbing and climbing. So how do you control that cost? How does that affect you? And I don't know how it affects you, but I mean, when you're looking at these things, man, I just know how it drives me crazy, but you still have a full head of hair and I ain't got no hair. So I don't know how do you handle this stuff?
You can only do what you can do for sure. But our industry is very interest rate sensitive. We've got a huge affordability problem right now. When those rates went up about, 6-9 months ago, when you were talking about, I thought the world was going to come to an end again.
Yeah.
And things did slow down there for about a 6-month period of time because people were shocked by how much more it cost to buy a house, not necessarily buy a house, but to own a house, meaning through their mortgage payments. And the market stopped. But since then, things have come back. The rates have stayed relatively the same. People have gotten used to the idea, and we're, as an industry, super blessed that it's a strong market right now, which is very surprising because of the affordability.
Is the recession and other hard times? They're basically experiences that we've gone through. Are they still fresh in your mind? Like a lot of times, I mean, do you feel like that where when something starts to look like it's going to go wrong, we're like, oh God, we're grabbing and holding on because we don't know how it's going to go. Is that still the same way with you? Do you think like that?
No question. The housing recession we had beginning in 2008 was the worst ever, and saw a lot of good businesses fail, mostly land developers.
Yeah.
And so those scars still run deep. And so we think of that as being lessons learned, but sometimes you learn the wrong lesson. So I would say one of the mistakes that the company has made coming out of the recession, these last several years, is we're probably too conservative.
Yeah,
we haven't really taken advantages of a growing hot market like we could have or should have, based upon the scars that we experienced in the housing recession.
I'm the same way. And because we got hit pretty good, and we were like no different than anybody else. We were just on a different scale than a lot of different people. And I just set my business plan up to move forward and say, I never want to go back to that again.
For sure.
I don't want to be there, Yeah. And I was going to ask you this because we were at the home builder's office in a big forum one day, and somebody said, what was your aha moment? What was your aha moment for this or that? And I said, I don't think I've ever had an aha moment. I've had oh shit moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I got to change. I got to do this. So did you ever? I mean, I'm sure you've had tons of those, but what's the biggest thing you can think of that had to change your direction right away when something was going on? Was it an aha or an oh shit?
Well, I don't know that I'm prepared for that question. We were talking about that great housing recession, and I remember when I first heard about these liar loans. And I'm like, well, what's a liar loan? And that's all. Well, people put down their income on their mortgage application, but no one checks it. Those are liar loans. And I think that was that if it wasn't an aha, oh shit moment, it should have been. Yeah. Because that was the crux of the what started that whole
unstated income.
Financial crisis.
Yeah. I never knew that. I never knew that was such a thing. And I'm the same way with you. I'm like, I can't believe that was what was going on. Yeah, exactly. I always hope that we are smart enough as a people, smart enough as a country, that we don't repeat the same mistakes that we've made.
All right.
But It happens. I mean, I sit in my small group at church and everybody talks about, the world today is screwed up. I'm like, read the Bible. It was always screwed up. I mean, there was always things that were going on, and leading up to this point, there was always things that were messed up. And I keep hoping that we'd never do that again. Why would we do that again? Right. And then here we are sitting here, they're raising interest rates, trying to slow things down and pull things back. And you're like, all right, well, we're going to do it again. We have to be tough.
Yeah, we will. We're in a cyclical business, and the cycles have been steeper but longer recently than what they were years ago. But things aren't going to stay the same. They're going to change. Right. We know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. And people always say, are you busy? You're busy. And I'm like, well, I am today. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, because the phone might stop ringing.
For sure.
I think what's the best advice that you can give to somebody who wants to become a builder or somebody who wants to start their own business?
Wow.
I know I didn't give you that question.
Yeah, I know. That's another one. I'd say know your numbers. Yeah. You got to understand what's going on out there in the moment. Yep. And how those numbers work together and what risks you're really taking. I think most builders are probably, and we see this when we hire people, they're optimistic people. And they need to be in this industry, right? Yeah. But that optimism will get you in trouble because you're not protecting on the downside. So it's got to stay balanced. Balance is the key to life. Yeah. And you got to protect yourself on the downside.
Man, I agree with you 100%. My advice always to people is don't do it. Why the hell would you do that? Go work for the Drees company. Go work for somebody else. Yeah. Why would you? Because you got to be crazy to own your own business.
We're living the American dream here. And we're blessed to be in an industry where you can do that pretty easily.
We are, for sure. One of my all-time heroes is a guy named Jay Myers from Dugan and Myers Construction. They built Stadium. They built all sorts of different they built the Ascent, is the Ascent over the Ascent over in Kentucky. They built all kinds of cool stuff, and I talked to him on the phone. We have these big long conversations and about all these different things. And I was complaining one day about it wasn't really like anything, but it was about running your own business. And he goes, well, he's a super smart guy. And he goes, I'll tell you right now. He goes, I live in a neighborhood where there's lawyers and there's accountants and there's doctors and there's these people. And he goes, and every single one of those people have to get up every day and go find a new customer. They have to go balance books. They have to do all these things. And I was like, this is the nicest way I've ever heard somebody tell me to shut up and go to work, quit complaining. But he's right. I mean, if you want to, owning your own business is not for the faint of heart, and you got to be tough. So I'm on a small scale. I've got 7 employees. You've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees. I just envy you. I think that you do such a great job, but also that you guys have kept it as a family business. You're a private business, and you and your sister, and you're carrying the legacy of your mom and dad. You're carrying this legacy of your grandparents, and you're still doing it. And I think that is so awesome. You should be commended for it. I think you should be proud of yourself. You don't need to hear that from me. And I just think I think you're a cool dude. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate you always being nice to me. But thanks for being here.
I appreciate it. It was fun.
What else could you say? I mean, what else should you say right now for everybody to listen? All 5 of our people who are listening to this thing.
Well, I hope there's more than 5. I just spent an hour with you.
I know. We're running out of time. So, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No.
You don't want to say thanks to your father-in-law for giving you such a wonderful wife?
Well, I probably should thank for that. Although sometimes I cuss him out too. But no, I've had a great life, and I'm very, very blessed to be in the position I'm in. And I'm definitely an
optimist.
Optimist.
There you go.
Thank you. And you got to be in this industry. So. Yeah, looking forward to the future.
I am too. Thanks again for being here. Everybody, it's David Drees with the Drees Company here on the WB Download. Thank you. There you have it, everybody. That was David Drees of the Drees Company here, based in Northern Kentucky. I consider him a Southwest Ohio guy, but you're based in Northern Kentucky. And again, I'm so grateful that he came on the show and was willing to talk to me. I'm enamored with the things that they do. This is just such a cool company, and I knew his dad, I know his mom, I know his sister, and I just know the family. And to hear the history, the things that his dad did, the decisions decisions and why they made the decisions to do the things they did. Like I said, I thought maybe that they just grew out into Dallas because they went to Dallas and they was like, man, this is a cool place. Let's build down here. It was strategically thought out, and it was the same thing when they went to Nashville, or when they went to, if they went to North Carolina, wherever they went, it was always thought out. And then to continue to thrive and grow that business is amazing for David and for his family. So again, I just want to say thank you. I want everybody to know how much I appreciate everybody that comes on the show, and specifically today, Mr. David Drees. So thanks again. So thank you everybody for listening. Thanks for being here on the WB Download. Thanks for keeping us going week to week. And I just want to remind you, if you want to subscribe to the WB Download, go get it on your favorite podcast service whenever you can. Don't forget that our episodes come out on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. And if you want to be a part of the conversation here, you can send your questions over to wbdownload@wielandbuilders.com. That's wbdownload@wielandbuilders.com, and check us out. Check out our awesome houses that we're building, homes that we're building for our customers at wielandbuilders.com. That's wieland builders.com. Hey everybody, once again, this was David Drees here on the WB Download. I'm Jeff Wieland. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.